Lugere Yetiva Jisu Swa Tia Gava People Jie Chonku Jebu Sarire Leti Pausa Vido Take the machine in we have young by no yellow sea. The year is Chitapa, that the year is take on the data. A milk and on Chidavo. To say, what an onion, Chimipo, what an onion, Tama Chepiamo. Vadana Yamye Switchi Tulepone Vadana Yamye Tote Pole Voli Celebrity Pio Town Siva Kavimelo Dini Ere cannot sign the video. Jojo the Yunan Tia and the video. Through a chia so body, on Yabo, Sebo. The water to ship only, Timmy Bido. Vadana Sab Sibido. The relief man comes up by your Kama. The ship who cut Timmy Laleka. However, corner on what is the Tiari. Playing Chief Lady. Cha Swari level, 2 judges of Chilla only the body. To show me the
A few days ago, Sayadawgyi spoke about the 9 causes for the 5 ruling faculties to arise. And he explained about this in theory and practice to a suitable extent. If one reaches the stage of Udayabhya Jnana, that is to see the fast arising and passing away of phenomena, then these 5 powers occur in an amazing way. These 5 powers arise. Faith is quite strong at that point. Before then, these 5 ruling powers do not arise. And Sayadawgyi has the responsibility at this point to speak about how the vision of vipassana knowledge becomes sharp and keen. How this vision or knowledge becomes strong. How it becomes broad. How it becomes swift and clear. And how it progresses. But Sayadawgyi would like to leave that for one day, put that aside for today, and he would like to speak about how when one comes to see how when one comes to see the various aspects of mind and matter, how they arise and then pass away, how they are unsatisfactory and lack an inherent self, and how especially how when one comes to see the fast arising away and passing away of phenomena, how faith arises like a wave, and how other mental qualities also occur in very amazing ways. Sayadawgyi would like to explain about this today.
Puyiru Jangan Yama Vadana Nimona Sabio body Set don't get Piatava Nature Wuditapa Nature Lakana Wuditapa Nature Nubasana Wuditapa Slavoli Nature Wulatia Mare Nija Lakana will dear me. Nija Lubasana will dear me, let it told you. I will want to take a lot of quick younger and let you worry. You will just say, Lamia. I don't take a jar of go. Deal me, sorry, and tell you. Dear also, we are in the take over.
In the text of Buddhism, there are 3 points which are explained when one sees with vipassana. And these 3 points are said, anicca veditavam, anicca lakanam veditavam, anicca vipassana veditavam. This means that one must know anicca. One must know the characteristic of anicca. And one must know anicca vipassana, or the repeated observation of anicca. So Sayadawgyi has explained in theory in the past, but as the yogis have been practicing for a long time now, he would like to speak about this in terms of what the yogis encounter in the practice.
For we don't keep your toilet the ball. I will probably do nature look for them. Go there, to I shall have a chitamia zona, dear. Or a conduct I put down in the joy. You think I mean I come out. He has another sea, Chicago. Now we will take up for a sea young dago. You did a Mikazara Dario. Technically, Bobo is a job of the told to Chare Kaitan at the time. Naya at Taya Chati Chatri Chakanzara, Dari Joga, Chaviro Joga, Namiro Jog, Saturday Casolucci, Shavo Yoga. Yada lady, TV of Pio. Go over Titu with Pio. Marapura in a Titu, Chanda Nuda in a Titu. Pura Nuda, Ada Pora in a Titu. Don't differ shadow than a Titu. It has a level for Pio by the world. Segu used only Pola de Camale. Near as the Guni Hobo. Security chief of Pablo. People of Teta and Tea have hours, you go no Bobby of Pio. Hello, Bobby of Pio. You be an dear Sue. Hoto about all of your tower. The woman said, David, don't I say, picture like a bob or a one. Pola about door. But she wakes it or Polek, Diego, none of you, dear. Anicca, dear. The Lutama Tower. Two yogi, Anicca, dear.
So among these 3 headlines, these 3 phrases that Sayadawgyi mentioned, the first, anicca veditavam, that is, one should know. Anicca is the quality of arising and then passing away. It is what is not permanent. So in our body, at the six sense doors, Sayadawgyi has mentioned that there are what occurs are the sense bases, the striker, and the spark. That we see with the eye base. On the eye base, the striker, the visible object strikes the eye, and then there's seeing consciousness, seeing contact, and feeling. There's seeing, and then it goes away. It arises and passes away in a moment. And hearing is the same way. There's the ear, there's the audible object, the sound wave, and then there's hearing consciousness, knowing the sound, contact, and feeling. And there's hearing, and then it passes away. Smelling occurs and then passes away. We know the taste, and that passes away. And then there's touch, the touch of something hard or soft, coarse or fine, the touch of something that is warm, hot, cold, the touch of something that is stiff or tense, tight, relaxed. The touch arises and then passes away. There are various thoughts that happen. There's thinking and then it goes away. It's not always there. It happens and then it goes away. Nothing arises and then stays that way. So it is said that mind and matter, this collection of mind and matter, nama and rupa, that we experience, it is said hutowa abhavato, that is, it wasn't there to begin with, but it occurs, and then it goes away. And so these things just arise again and again and again. So, and because of this, they are called anicca, mind and matter. What is anicca is mind and matter. And the yogis are practicing to know these things which are anicca, which are impermanent.
အဲ့ဒါတွေဟာယုံနာတရားတွေဟာသူကအကြောင်းမဲ့ဖြစ်နေတာကိုအကြောင်းနဲ့ဖြစ်နေတာပါရှိကမျက်စိနားနာအစရှိတဲ့တော်တွေကတော့ရှိကကံကြောင်းခံပြီးတော့ယခုစေဥဒုအာဟာရအထောက်ပံ့နေပုံလေးဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့သူတို့ရှင်းတန်းနေရတာစိတ်ကြောင့်ဖြစ်တဲ့ယုံနာတရားယုတ်တရားတွေနဲ့တရားတွေသူတို့ယုတ်တရားတွေသူကြောင့်ဖြစ်တဲ့ယုတ်တရားတွေစိတ်တရားရောအာရကြောင့်ဖြစ်တဲ့ယုတ်တရားတွေပေါ့ဒါတွေရှိပါသေးတယ်အဲ့ဒါနဲ့တွဲပြီးတော့နံတရားတွေလည်းရှိတော့အဲ့ဒါတွေလည်းသင်ရှားပါတယ်သူကတော့အဲ့ဒါကိုဘာဝလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဘာဝဘောတိဥပ္ပစ္စတိဒီဘာဝဘောတိဥပ္ပစ္စတိတိဖြစ်ပေါ်လာကြလို့တဲ့ဒီမျိုးပြီးဒီမျိုးပေါ်လေးဖြစ်ပေါ်ပြီးတော့လာကြလို့ဘာဝတဲ့အဲ့ဒီယုံနာတရားတွေကလည်းပဲကိုယ်စီသူတို့မှအမှတ်သားလေးရှိကြပါတယ်စကောဘာဝစဘာဝစကောကိုယ်စီဖြစ်တော့တတိတိချဖြစ်တော့ဘာဝဖြစ်နေရှိနေတဲ့တရားတဲ့အဲဒါစဘာဝလို့ခေါ်ရတဲ့ဓမ္မအဲဒီစဘာဝလေးတွေသိရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ဖြစ်တုံးဖြစ်ဆဲလေးမှာလိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှိရတာပဲဓမ္မ
This mind and matter does not exist without a cause. It exists due to causes. The basic cause for us to have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Leave out the mind. Just the physical sense bases, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. The cause for these originally is our past karma, our past actions. But in the present, they are also supported by the mind, by weather, and by nutrition. These factors, these causes, keep our sense bases healthy. And there's also mind-produced matter that exists. There's also matter in our bodies that is caused by weather, the environment, and there's also matter that is caused by nutriment. And together with matter, there's mind, mentality, which arises together with matter. And these are obvious, and they're called bhava, B-H-A, long A-V-A. This word is explained as bhavati, opajati ti bhavo. That means that because they exist, because they happen, because they occur, they are called bhava. And each has their own characteristic, or quality. It is said sako bhavo sabhavo. This is what we are trying to see, sabhava. This word is explained as sako bhavo. Sako means individual or one's own. So it is, sabhava is this individual Dhamma which exists, individual existing thing or quality. So to know sabhava, to know these things, these individual qualities which really exist, one has to observe them when they happen.
Sayadaw, SADHU cheno, Dari matwena debahu. Tilari pieso viro, pamu poge, pemu poge, sadi body, poro pose le viro shua body. Shuro secretary, magrele, the kuna who says a viro, sinche doara. The SADHU to be covered. Very single lady got only up it wire. Pona leaf Malachi. Sauna lady, dinner lady, slaughter lady, or the lady. To the one by little, 12 lady. Pona little, 12 lady. Pundana pina net, Agara pina, but 12 lady. Say to 12 video tea about the Pina Malusin like Tony to go. 12 Tinia. So Latina looked at you, Tata Martina live. Eddie Palogaro Judiago Tida, Judia Nadia, a Judiago Paisa Tida. There is the Paula secretary, New York Chadora, and Nadia will do that. You Nadia, the Venetia of the Karaga, Judia Tillet, the Karaga, Nadia Tillet. And you found that Pezema, she must save her body. I will discharge the child. Quebilo, Nale, Lore Kama, Shin Lore Kama. Yona Paisa did a so whatever. The Yamadis said, Malo say, Kona, shoot a lady, shoot it here. The Garaga Ponali Mania, Pinali Mania, Ponali Pioga, a Pinali Pioga. Pinali Pioga, do the same of Boro. I am Boma at the same kid out. I am boy at the same people. I am who a John Job. Aramlika so the Tisita Lady Valedi. Erali Shiara. I am a college, a team of all. Gracias. Every teacher tap by the Tivara. Era a chown a Jotita Voletama. Several human elusi, a chow Jose. A found pay who, don't give from such as already. Popo Vido Piotara. You can shoot at the Bawa, Mili Sura, Yogawa and the Bawa. The Bawa Mima, take it up in the sort of few you Piaho. Adosa Mara. Some that call it a pine but with you. Ubadan and Chite Kajama, Honali Malaluce, Ponali, Sale Kenare, Pony on the deed. Pon so that for a deed, Pinali Maluce, Pinari aside, Pinidonia, Pay some Doralia. Chaza Korea, Buranvida, Ada, Tona Dina. Nona Nalakaita Kera, Dalili, Bobola Kamawani. Asa Bobola, some that for a piney body. Hello, Tita Tapara. Hello, Tita. Nature Lakana, Tita. Bobby Jokora. Jokora, Chia, Tita. Lisa Lakana, Lisa.
At the very start of practice, one can't see Sabhava yet. One keeps sila, and at the moment of rising and falling, one has to observe these. And because of observing, the noting mind occurs one after another. It becomes continuous, and the mind becomes clean. So this is called Chitta Visuddhi, purity of mind. And when purity of mind, Chitta Visuddhi, develops full energy, when it's very strong, then when we observe the rising, we know qualities like stiffness or tension or movement. But what we know is mixed in with the shape of the abdomen. We don't see the quality of stiffness or tension or movement separately. We see also the shape of the abdomen, or we see also the way it expands. And it's the same with the falling. We see the qualities of the falling mixed together with the shape of the belly or the manner of the falling, the way it collapses. So we can't, at this point, we can't yet know stiffness or tension or movement, these qualities. We can't know them separately. So at this time one is knowing mind and matter. So one knows the object, and sometimes one is aware of the mind, sometimes one is aware of the body. What we become aware of sometimes is that we observe the rising, and we're aware that there's of the difference between the object that is being observed and the mind that is knowing it. So sometimes we are sometimes aware of the mind observing, and sometimes we're aware of the thing that is being observed. So at this stage we are knowing, this is the discernment of mind and matter. This is knowing the difference between seeing them distinctly. And if one continues to observe from this point, one comes to see how, because there is something to be observed, because there is an object, the noting mind arises to observe it. So we watch the rising, the mind arises to observe it. We watch the falling, the mind arises to observe it. And the falling comes to an end. And then the noting mind doesn't arise because the falling is no longer there. So due to the object, the mind which observes it arises. The object is aramana in Pali, and the mind is something which knows the object. It is called aramanika. So we see how these two are related as cause and effect. Because of the object, the observing mind arises to observe it. If we continue to observe, then when we observe rising or falling, the mind falls on stiffness or tension or movement. These arise and then pass away. At the moment of falling, there's movement or relaxation. These arise and then pass away. So it is said that only if one observes at the moment of arising will one see true nature for sure. So when one starts to be able to see true nature, this is what is meant. We observe at the moment of arising in order to see true nature. And it's only when true nature, sabhava, is seen that sankata appears. Only when sabhava is seen does its compound characteristic, sankata, lakkhana, occur. Before we see sabhava separately, we aren't able to see how it has a beginning and an end. But when vipassana knowledge starts to arise, we are able to see the qualities of the rising, see the qualities of the falling. When the rising occurs, we're aware of it from the beginning, through the middle of it, and until the end of it. When the falling occurs, we're aware of it from the beginning, through the middle of it, until the end of it. Whether there's cold or heat or warmth, we observe them from the beginning to the end. Aches or pains also, they arise and then go away. We know them from the start to the finish. So this is knowing, when we see how they go away, this is knowing the characteristic of anicca. This is knowing the characteristic of impermanence. Knowing how things arise and then pass away. This is called anicca lakkhana. The aspect that mind and matter have of arising and then passing away is called anicca lakkhana, the characteristic of impermanence.
တရားရှုမှတ်တဲ့အခါမျိုးမှာတော့အဲ့ဒီဖြစ်မှုရမှုပြတ်မှုခေါ်တဲ့အချိန်ပိုင်း၃ပိုင်းကိုတော့တမင်လိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုဖို့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးသူကမြင်ဖို့ရအတူရတဲ့တရားတွေမှာမပါပါဘူးသူကသူထင်းလာတာပါပဲတကယ်အရှိသဘာဝတရားကိုဖြစ်တုံးဖြစ်စေလိုက်ပြီးတော့ရှုတဲ့အခါမှာအထုဆမှာတော့ဖြစ်မှုရမှုပြတ်မှုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အလယ်ပိုင်းကစသိတာပဲအကြောင်းတရားပေါ်လာတဲ့အခါမှာအကြောင်းတရားကိုမှတ်မိတဲ့အခါကျတော့စပိုင်းလေးပဲစတွေ့လာတယ်ဟောဆက်ပြီးတော့ရှုလို့ဝိပဿနာလေးကိုယ်ရဲ့တတိတမာတိတွေအားကောင်းလာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဆုံးပိုင်းမှာတွေ့တော့တယ်အဆုံးပိုင်းတွေထင်းလာတယ်သူကရှုတဲ့အခါမျိုးမှာတော့ဖောင်းမှလို့ရှိရင်ဒီကလေးဖောင်းတာကစပြီးတော့ဆုံးသွားတဲ့အထိကပ်ပြီးတော့လဲရပါတယ်ပိတ်ကြသွားလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပိတ်စားစိတ်ပိတ်ဆုံးအထိကပ်ပြီးတော့လိုက်သွားပါတယ်အစအလေအဆုံးကိုမှတ်ဖို့တော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးစိတ်အပြည့်အဝဒီပုံမှာရောက်ဖို့စိတ်အပြည့်အဝရောက်မှသဘာဝမြင်ပါတယ်အစာများစားတဲ့အခါကျတော့ပါဇာတ်တဲ့ရောက်လာတဲ့တုံးလေးတွေဖက်ကလေးတွေပေါ့လေ Tari Tavido Wire Tari Tavido, don't look at the idea Yada Toilet. Fakri Wallace and idea she Yada Toilet. A year, the Rita Toilet Cherry, a year Yada is Shavo Yoga. Yada is Dia Sare Sarema, Eddie Yada Sora Siva. Maya de Ayolema, so dear Ayolem, Nadia Ayolem Sifaboli. Sugar Ayolema, Yada the prayer. To our lady, she divided one. Ella de Dia Paula Rani, Sarah Sonti, capital layer at Ma, capital Lima, Kona Sharema, Bezate Yogare Hao. The one capital Wama, Dhamma Yada Twitter, capital Laipama, Suzu say Laipama, Yada Lady Valetama, Tabawa Dia.
When we practice meditation, although the things that we observe have a beginning, a middle, and an end, there's no need to seek these out. There's no need to observe the beginning. There's no need to observe the momentary existence of the object or the end. These moments in the life of the object are not the object we are trying to see. They're just how the object appears. So they aren't, the beginning, middle, and end of something is not something we deliberately try to focus on, because they're just how the object appears. They're not the object itself. When we start our meditation, we first start to see the middle of the object. And when the causal, how one thing causes another starts to become apparent, then what we become aware of is the start of the object, the beginning of the object and the middle. And when energy, mindfulness, and concentration, virya, sati, and samadhi, are quite good, then the end of the object becomes apparent. But what we have to do is, when we are observing the rising, for example, what we're trying to do is get our mind to stick to the object from the beginning to the end of it. When the falling occurs, we have to get the mind to stick with the object from the beginning to the end. So the task that the yogi should be focused on is to just get the mind to be fully on the object, not to try to deliberately seek out to see any part of it. You have to try to see the whole thing. So it's similar to when one chews a piece of food. You have to chew the food mindfully with awareness, and then the taste will become obvious. So you chew mindfully, and the taste automatically will be known. And if you drink something that is flavored, then the taste of that liquid will go onto the tongue, and one will know the taste, the flavor that is in the liquid. And so too with the object of observation, the thing we are trying to see, whether it is mind or matter, it has a quality which is like a flavor. And to know the quality that is like a flavor, you have to stick with the object from the very beginning of it to the end. So it's similar to trying to chew the food carefully. So only if one observes, focusing carefully, will one be able to see the flavor, see the quality of the food, that is like a flavor, that is, only then will one know sabhava, or true nature.
Pamu Pemugo, good yoga and lead time. Saga, Sonki, Delicia, Susepam, Yaro. Pamule, Sonta Dora. Pemule, Sonta Dora. The Junior Gona Pogo resolution, Pamua. A year later, Tomatu she was there. Kaluaki Sele, Pamule, Sonta Dora, Twitter. Eddie Twitter, Lisa Lecana, would eat up one look over. Bobby Kyotorago, Sonta Dora would bring in a Lisa Lecana, do it over. Sonta Dora, Twitter, or Bonarea. Never go, Bobby Kyotorago, Suraboli. No, when Lisa Nubasana, like La Lora. Pong Shu Lena Pong Air teacher as a bit of Shu Lena Ponari Sonda Dora Pedro Talia Mamere goes Ravoli Masinzaya when a Luloti Gora had Anicha Nubasana and Yanko.
So, if one observes the rising and the falling, as described like this from the very start to the finish, many, many times, then when one observes the rising, one sees it go away. One observes the falling and one sees it go away. And some people whose knowledge is very good, they see things just disappearing again and again. So knowing how the object disappears is anicca. This knowledge is anicca lakkhana, knowing the disappearance. When we see how the object ends, and we know when we see how the object ends, it follows automatically that one knows this thing is impermanent. When we see the rising come to an end, it automatically follows that one knows, oh, the rising is impermanent. It comes and it goes. So when one observes rising and sees it go away, without any need to think about it, one knows this thing is impermanent. And this is called anicca vipassana jnana.
Eddie Pamu Kore, Tawdin Lucia, you dore the Bavalakanaye, a saw lay so, she has some to Murega. Now, so good with I would do it, and is a Lakanakino. Pong the shoe they don't want. Edali, so that's what I do. 对面的多个你家里边是那样为他们过来到那头下来多我来看来收到多的亲眼来个突突恰恰过的亲眼来个不等那明年样的这个你家里边是那样的啊这里样个 Tamanya Lakana would eat a little cover. Tamanya Lakana would have 2 years Lakana. Paunale, Bobio Yoga, Pinale, Bob Yoga, Tainale, Bob Yoga, Tidale, Bob Yoga, Minale, Bob Yoga, Nana Sada Tidale, Gonodale, Bob Yoga, Puranwida, Ada, Taunatina, Luda, Gonodale, Bob Yoga. Bobby for a time, Tina, she Yoga Ajiba. Tiro Yona the Bawari, Alu Eradia. Can't do shit in it. Povidum Jobin at these of you. You hear that chain of Senator. Here I go, Tamina cover, Tamina. Do you hear about Diari? Or Diari, Popo, Plogo, Chia. Here, do you reckon? The Bawa Lecanaro, Kozi Lekana, Tegada Lekana, Changi Lekana, Chay Dunida. Tamya Lekana to that Duni Lekana. Eda is somehow Nieloshi, vipassana Pito.
So among the three parts of the rising or falling, that is the stiffness or tension or movement, among the three parts, that is the beginning, middle, and end, what appears is the end. The end is apparent. And because one sees it, this being able to see the end of the object is anicca nupassana jnana, which is a type of vipassana knowledge. We means the VI, the first part of vipassana means among the various aspects that true nature have, one is able to see the special quality of how the object disappears. So anicca nupassana jnana is seeing this special quality of how the object disappears. That is, its quality of being impermanent. So the anicca nupassana jnana, the knowledge that is the repeated observation of the characteristic of impermanence, this type of knowledge knows the common characteristic of phenomena. Rising arises and then disappears. Falling happens, it disappears. Sitting occurs, it disappears. Touching occurs, it disappears. Same with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. They arise and then disappear. Heat, cold, warmth, these all arise and they don't stay that way. They arise and then disappear. So all the things we can experience, they are all the same in this way. And because they are the same, this is called samanya lakkhana, or common characteristic. It is one of the things that they all have in common, is that they arise and then pass away. So the word sabhava lakkhana means individual characteristic or unique characteristic. Sankhata lakkhana, the aspect that phenomena has of having a beginning, a middle, and an end, 3 points in time. This is called the compound characteristic. And the characteristics that phenomena have in common are called samanya lakkhana. So when one can see all three of these types of characteristics, sabhava, sankhata, and samanya, then vipassana knowledge occurs.
Kui Pyogaragu Tui Yama Uvatana Yan Koreno Kuzi the Vavari Kui Pyogaragu Tuima Uvatana Yano Suareno Eri Kuzi the Vavari Sizaviro Tidala Sapalu Tidala Sodama Shuma Sepa Paunale Osara Sonti Paunero Shune Doma Pinale Tunigo Pizana Pizoti Pinero Shune Doma Pedro Camuma Tijara Sizareka SADHU Panditarama Meditation Center Edaka Pongbu Tidamo Porum Bozeli, Porum Bozeli, Kulunina like Shuma Sema, Quipyota Prima, Tama, Vipassana, Sit, Core, Tamia Lakanago, Mieno, Miendology, Watana, Sit, Peter of Elunina.
Only when we see phenomena arise and then disappear, only when we see the individual true nature arise and then disappear. Does vipassana knowledge occur? So it's only when these things are seen, when the individual sabhava is seen to arise and then disappear, that vipassana knowledge occurs. Does this knowledge come from reading or from hearing about it? It comes from seeing as we observe. It's knowledge that arises as we observe. So when observing the rising, when observing the falling, from the beginning to the end, and we see how it ends, this is definite. This type of knowledge is definite. When we read about something or reflect about something, this is not definite knowledge. Only when we observe, and as we observe, we see it go away. Only when we see the common characteristics does vipassana knowledge occur.
Blood circulation is what we call it. Edema, Korea, a young nature, Nibal of Fide, a young, the Kano Lenny, a young, the road Jay Lenny, a young. 2 years I was out.
If vipassana knowledge starts to arise, at this stage the yogi has overcome pain and the noting has become good. So the yogi is able to observe every arising object, including small details, and watching the objects arise and then passing away. The yogi sees each object quite precisely. And at that time, the mind becomes especially clean because of the continuity of observation. The factors of anupassana, virya, sati, and samadhi are occurring. And there's accurate aim as well as knowledge arising. So the five-fold path, panchangika mega, is arising, and the mind is very clean. One is also keeping sila. One's morality is pure. So with virya, sati, and samadhi occurring, kanika samadhi, momentary concentration, occurs. And the mind is concurrent with the object. It meets the object accurately and knows how the object arises and then passes away very quickly. At this stage, the circulation of the blood in one's body becomes very good, and because of this, light arises, and it can how do you say it? It can come out of the body also. Light can emit from one's body, and sometimes this light just happens once, and it can happen to a moderate extent, and it can happen even quite a lot.
ဒီပဲရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အထုဆတ်မှာတော့ဘုံဝင်မှုအစရှိတဲ့အာယုန်နဲ့တဲ့အောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ရွယ်စုပြရတာရွယ်စုမှုတွေတဲ့သွားပြီဆိုရင်အာယုန်နဲ့မစိနဲ့ပုတ်တဲ့တဲ့သူဖြစ်သွားတာထိထိမိမိဖြစ်သွားတာဥဒိစ္စံနဲ့ဥစ္စာရဆံတွေပေါ့လေနောက်လက်ကျင်သာရသွားတဲ့အခါကျတော့အထူးချင်းရတာမျိုးမဟုတ်တော့သူကသူပဲအလိုလိုတက်ပြီးတော့ထိထိမိမိအလိုလိုဖြစ်နေတော့တာပဲလက်ကျင်ရရလာတာပေါ့အဲ့ဒါမှာပီတိတို့ပစ္စတိတို့သုခတို့ဆိုတာပေါ့လေနောက်ပိုင်းကဇန်သဘောတွေလိုက်လာတော့တာပဲဒီမှာနှစ်သိအားတဲ့ပီတိတွေပျော်ပြီးတော့လာတော့တာယောဂီကကိုယ်ရစပါအေးချမ်းလာတာပေါ်ပါလာတာလေဒါတွေလည်းသိထင်ရှားလာတာပဲနေလို့ထိုင်လို့ကောင်းလာတာလေချမ်းသာတွေဖြစ်လာတာလေတရားရတာတွေဘောဓမ္မ
At this stage, although at the beginning of the practice one had to aim the mind at every rising, every falling, and other objects in order for the mind to be accurate. At this stage, there's the aim. When the aim is accurate, then the mind rubs against the object. So these are the two jhanic factors of vitakka and vichara. But later, these qualities automatically occur. One doesn't have to make any special effort to aim the mind. The mind is automatically aimed accurately and concurrent with the object, rubbing against it. So this is because of the skill that one has gained in noting. And at that time, other jhanic qualities, other qualities that are involved in absorption also arise, like piti and sukha. The piti arises, this is joyous interest, and there is also passaddhi, which is tranquility, and one feels very good. This is the quality of sukha. So this is the taste of the Dhamma that one experiences.
အဲ့ဒီပင်ရောက်လာလို့ရှိရင်ယောဂီကစောစောပိုင်းကတော့သံတရားအမျိုးမျိုးနဲ့ဖြစ်နေတာပေါ့လေ။ငါဒီလိုမှတ်နေတာလမ်းမှာမှန်ရလားမဟုတ်ဘဲများဖြစ်နေသလားစသည်ပေါ့လေတဲ့အတွေးတောတွေလည်းရှိမှာပေါ့ဝေဘာမှုတွေလည်းပဲရှိတတ်တော့ပါပဲဒီကကြတော့ဝေဘာမှုတို့ဘာတို့ယုံမတန်တရားတို့ဘာမရှိတော့အတီးပြုတ်ဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ကြနိုင်တော့အောင်တတ္တတရားတွေဖြစ်သွားတာတဲ့ဟုတ်လိုက်လေမှန်လိုက်လေငါဒီနိလန်းဒီလိုဒီနိလန်းတဲ့အထုတဲ့အတွက်ငါဒီလိုရတာတွေတွေ့ရတာပဲဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒါမှဒီပြုဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ကြသွားတဲ့တတ္တတရားဟာထူးထူးခြားခြားကြီးပေါ်လာတော့ပါပဲကျန်တဲ့အပိုင်းတွေတော့နောက်နေကြပါပဲဆက်ပြီးတော့ပြောပါတော့မယ်ဒီနေ့ကတော့ဒါလောက်နဲ့ပဲအဆုံးသတ်ပါတော့
If one reaches this stage, although earlier in the practice, the yogis had various doubts. Is my noting right? Is this method right? Is it wrong? But at this stage in the practice, one has no thoughts, no doubts, no criticisms about the practice at all. At this point, one's faith is decisive. One realizes this method is right because of practicing in the correct way, I am experiencing these special things. So one's faith becomes very decisive at this point. The remainder of this topic will be continued tomorrow, as tomorrow 1 hour is already up. That's all for today.